You grew up in a rundown apartment on the outskirts of the city, in a family where money was always tight. Your father worked long shifts hauling cargo in a warehouse. Your mother suffered from chronic asthma and couldn't handle physically demanding work. At home, there were also two younger brothers still in elementary school. For you, things like makeup, fashionable clothes, and salon appointments had always felt like luxuries meant for someone else. Your name was Wawa, and you attended an ordinary local university. The three girls sharing your dorm room always looked effortlessly stylish. One had bleached her hair platinum blonde. Another wore a soft milk tea brown, while the third had smoky blue highlights running through her hair. They knew how to look like polished, fashionable college students. Then there was you. Your hair was thick, coarse, and completely black. You had never dyed or permed it in your life. Even the conditioner you used was usually half a bottle left over from your mother. University, however, had a way of turning beauty into a silent competition. Whenever the girls in your class gathered, they talked about lipstick shades, new manicures, and the latest hair colors. Somehow, every conversation eventually came back to hair. I need to touch up my roots. Light golden brown is everywhere right now. It makes your skin look so much brighter. You always sat nearby pretending to scroll through your phone. In reality, you listened to every word. You envied them, and that envy slowly turned into a dull ache you couldn't shake. It was even worse on weekends. My milk tea brown is already fading. I'm going back next week. That salon charges 600 yuan for a gradient color. It's expensive, but the results are amazing. You would stand beside them clutching an empty paper cup. You would smile whenever they smiled, but never join the conversation. Sometimes, someone would turn to you and ask, Wawa, why do you never dye your hair? Black hair makes you look so much older. You would force a small smile and say, My mom won't let me. She says it damages your hair. Nobody called you out on the lie, but you could see the faint surprise, and sometimes pity, in their eyes. The graduation party was what finally pushed you over the edge. Everyone was buying new dresses and planning new hairstyles. They wanted to look perfect in their graduation photos. The girls in your group decided to visit a salon downtown and dye their hair light golden brown together. The older girl, organizing it, waved a membership card and said she knew the manager, so she could get everyone a discount. Even after the discount, it would still cost 800 yuan per person. Everyone agreed excitedly. Everyone except you. You gripped the edge of your clothes so tightly that your palms began to sweat. 800 yuan was what your father earned after 3 full days of lifting heavy boxes. It was enough to feed your entire family for a week. You opened your mouth, ready to say, I can't go. But when everyone turned to look at you, the words, I can't afford it, became trapped in your throat, so you lied. You told them you had to take your mother to the hospital that day. One girl simply said, Oh. Then she turned back to the conversation. Nobody asked another question. You left early and wandered along the streets for hours. Why? Why could everyone else have these things so easily while you had to struggle for even the smallest taste of them? The wind was bitterly cold that night. Standing alone on an empty street, you made yourself a promise. By the night of the graduation party, you would have beautiful dyed hair, no matter what it took. The next morning you woke up in the dorm with painful cramps. Your period had started. You lay curled up in bed with cold sweat covering your forehead. While scrolling through your phone, you suddenly searched for ways to dye hair for free. The results were all over the place. Some suggested coffee. Others recommended lemon juice. Then you found a strange, contextless comment. Blood contains iron. It can dye hair a natural reddish brown. Completely natural, and it doesn't cost anything. The idea shot into your mind before common sense had a chance to stop it. You began desperately trying to convince yourself. It comes from my own body, so it's clean. Salon dye contains ammonia and smells horrible anyway. This is natural. Once the thought took hold, you couldn't let it go. When your roommates left for a shared lecture, you locked the dorm room and found an empty water bottle. As you collected the blood, you kept whispering encouragement to yourself. Just this once. If it works, I've saved 800 yuan. If it doesn't, I'll wash it out immediately and pretend it never happened. When you were finished, you pulled a chair in front of the sink and stepped onto it. Closing your eyes, you raised the bottle over your head. The cool, dark red liquid ran slowly through the roots of your hair. A faint metallic smell rose into the air. You frowned but kept rubbing it toward the ends with your hands. Soon, your fingers were covered in it. Every few moments you held a strand up to the light. It really did seem to have a brownish tint. After rubbing it in for more than 10 minutes, you decided it had absorbed enough. Then you picked up a hairdryer, thinking heat might help set the color. The dryer had been running for less than 30 seconds when something changed. At first, there had only been a faint smell of blood. But under the hot air, it quickly turned into a thick, rotten stench. It smelled like fish and shrimp left in the summer heat for 3 days. It was mixed with the overpowering odor of an old public restroom. Within seconds, it filled the entire dorm. You gagged. Still, you refused to give up. Holding your breath, you kept the dryer running, desperately hoping the smell would disappear once your hair was dry. Instead, it grew stronger. The odor slipped beneath the door and drifted into the hallway. Less than 2 minutes later, someone shouted, "What is that smell? Did a rat die near room 302? Then a girl from the neighboring dorm knocked on your door. "Wah wah, what happened in there? We can smell it from our room." You crouched on the floor with your hair stuck together in dark, wet clumps. You didn't dare open the door. You didn't even dare answer. The smell was so strong that your head began to spin and your stomach churned. A few minutes later, the dorm supervisor arrived with a set of keys. She pounded on the door and shouted, "Open this door! The entire floor can smell it. Are you hiding something rotten in there?" There was no way out. You forced yourself to open the door. The moment it swung open, the stench rushed into the hallway. The supervisor recoiled and began coughing violently. Covering her nose, she looked past you. She saw your dark brown hair stuck together in thick clumps. Then she noticed the empty bottle beside the sink. It didn't take long for her to understand what you had done. She pointed at you, but for several seconds she couldn't find a single word to say. The news spread faster than the smell. Within half an hour, everyone on the floor knew. Some students gathered outside the room to watch. Others took blurry photos and posted them on the university's anonymous social media page. Then came the most humiliating moment of all. The girls who had planned the salon trip heard what had happened and came to your dorm. They stood in the doorway with their noses covered, staring at you with a mixture of shock, discomfort, and pity. After a long silence, the older girl finally spoke. "Wah wah, if you couldn't afford it, you could have told us. We would have shipped in and paid for you. You wanted the floor to split open and swallow you. All you had wanted was to dye your hair in secret, show up at the party, and blend in with everyone else. You wanted them to believe you had also spent 800 yuan at a salon. Instead, everyone now knew the truth. The dorm supervisor called your parents. When your father arrived, he pointed at you, too shocked to form a complete sentence. What did you? Have you lost your mind?" You crouched on the floor, covered your head with your arms, and burst into tears. "I just wanted to dye my hair. Everyone else did it, and I was the only one who couldn't. They all think I'm old-fashioned. I didn't have the money. I couldn't even afford hair dye." The smell refused to disappear. Every window in the dorm was opened. Almost half a bottle of air freshener was sprayed into the room. But the rotten odor still lingered. Your father took you to a hair salon downstairs and asked them to cut your hair short. The stylist washed it 5 times, using nearly half a bottle of shampoo and conditioner. Even then, a faint metallic stench remained. He had been cutting hair for 12 years. He said he had never dealt with anything like it. In the days that followed, something inside you seemed to break. You barely ate or drank. Whenever you heard someone laughing, you became convinced they were laughing at you. At night, you couldn't sleep. Every time you closed your eyes, you saw the crowd packed outside your dorm room staring at you. Your parents became so worried that they took you to the psychiatric department of a hospital. The doctor said you had suffered an intense social and emotional shock. You were showing signs of severe anxiety and serious body image issues. He recommended that you stay in the hospital for observation and treatment. And so, you were admitted. You never made it to the graduation party. You never got the beautiful hair you had dreamed about. Instead, you became the story everyone on campus remembered. The girl whose desperate attempt to fit in turned her into a legend on the university forum.